Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Lech Dech Musar podcast. We continue with Pele Yoeitz. We're on page 68 in the art scroll, day 23 of Hachzik. Says the Pele Yoeitz, we're talking about machshavos that one should have during the mitzvah with his wife. A person wants to know what's the safeguard that will ensure that one is able to have in mind holy thoughts. Ensure that his mind is clear and that he's not metumtum b'shena, he's awake. When he's drowsy or weak, his heart is no longer with him. He's thinking about things he shouldn't be thinking about. Says the Pele Yoeitz, if a person's choishish that he's going to bump into the nighttime, he's not going to be able to focus and he's not going to be able to have pure, clean thoughts because his mind is going to be preoccupied with sleep and other things, then you have a mitzvah of zrizin magdimin, the mitzvahs that applies to all other mitzvahs as well. And for this, there's no exception. Pele Yoeitz goes back to practical instructions regarding finding your zivug. One must never seek to marry an unsuitable woman to secure marital wealth. A person, we know this culture in the world that a person has money, the balabatish, all the different terminologies. But you want to know what the truth is? You want to know what the Pele Yoeitz has to say? Again, a person should never compromise on the quality of his wife for the sake of thinking, I'm going to get material wealth. As we quoted before, we said that ultimately it can't be a fact that gets in the way, because we said, Hashem is one who gives what's destined with generosity and kindness. So ultimately, it's not even going to make a difference. Keep your mind focused. Go after who you think is Bashar. I once heard a beautiful machshava, b'shem big gadol. They asked him, we're talking about over here about finding the right zivug, about finding your soulmate, and about how you should be idealistic and focused, and not getting swept away with culture and with going after wealth to secure material wealth and a shidduch. So we quoted countless times the chazal of Arba'im Yom Kedim Tzirasai, Bas Kol Yoeitz V'Ameres, Bas Pleni, Bas Pleni. So there's a whole commotion, there's a whole ceremony 40 days before a couple gets married. So that's 20, maybe 23, 25, sometimes it can be longer, years before the couple gets married. So someone asked the gadol, I don't understand. There's thousands of organizations and young men and women that haven't found each other yet. If the bas kol went out 25 years ago, what does it help for now? Why do we have all these organizations? Let's get a recording. Look in the Google Drive. What happened during that bas kol that went out from Chayriv? But now we have organizations and thousands of people and write-ups in the Mishpacha magazine about what's the reason? And drushes and chizik and gatherings and groups and singles. What's the commotion? Ma'akal Arash. Everyone should just know who their destined one is, and they'd have much more clarity. So what's the eitzah? How does a person know? It seems like there's so much uncertainty, there's so much commotion, but if there was a bas kol, shouldn't we hear about that now? And obviously the Gadol said that there's also another factor, that zivugim are kosher kriyas yamsuf, so we have to keep that in mind as well. But the reason for the bas kol is Hashem wants to put out to the world. How do we access that? The beautiful point over here is the way we access that, the way we can tap into that, lean into that divine message, that divine proclamation, is when the wind blows positively. When the wind blows where it seems it makes sense. People can go out and right away, there's no chemistry, they're not talking, there's no connection. So no, the wind isn't blowing. But this Gadol said that the way we know what was said over, our closest inkling, our closest way of detecting if we're right, if we're securing what was said, is when the wind blows, when sometimes it just feels right. It just feels this is correct. It just feels this is the one that is destined. This is the one that was the baskol. You have to listen for that. You have to be mesim leiv. You have to tilt your ears, sometimes your eyes. You have to ask, whatever it is. But that is how we can access on our level thousands of years later from chayriv into that baskol. So that's just another emphasis on v'loisa isha she'ina guna l'shem mammon. The Yoeitz is saying, don't seek to marry someone unsuitable to secure material wealth. But the answer is there's really something deeper. That not everyone is wealthy. Not everyone looks like what you thought. Not everyone has the family that you thought would be the perfect family and the perfect setup and the whole bucket list. But inevitably, hopefully, Hashem has a zivug for everyone. And when you go out, when you're going through the process and you're dating or whatever it is, you're doing a bishol, if there's a certain easiness, there's a certain push, there's a certain ruach of, this just seems right, the wind seems to be blowing, said the Gadol, that's your cue. That's the sign, that's the signal of the baskol. So we can never predict and know who it was that was said at the baskol. We thought she was going to be a wealthy girl, and she's not wealthy. Okay, but if that's the way the baskol is telling us, then we have to remember, okay, maybe she's not a wealthy girl, I'm not going to be able to sit and learn my whole life, I'm not going to be able to sit and relax, but never forget that Hashem is the noisin l'chol echad aroiloi modar echava. Hashem is the one with generosity and kindness that never ceases. And if you thought she was going to be tall and really she's shorter, and she's shorter, she's being tall. But if we want to connect to the emes, we want to connect to the truth, we want to reach, we want to access who is said over at the baskol, the answer is see where the wind is blowing. Feel it, tap into that. Now the Pele Yoeitz concludes with more practical advice. Mechala Omer hu gam kein shelo yisa almana she'ena kareses bris al misha sakli. Including these cautions is not to marry a widow who has been married once before, because it gets more complicated. And the karva dover should daita al baila rishon v'limse kama deis b'mita. She should have her mind on her first husband. Uma gama ima rishon noichla v'asheni kashem. What happens if the second husband is harder than the first husband? Then she's always going to be thinking about him. Shebevada letishkach aluf neurel. She's always going to be thinking about that husband, the days of her youth. Ve'asasheni tivez loy beliba, and may even come to despise her second partner. Uma gam sha'omu b'zer kadosh. The Pele Yoeitz talks about, the Zohar talks about the one who marries an almana is likened to a person who goes to swim in the ocean. Preferably take a besula, not a almana, not a divorcee. But of course, there's an important caveat, which is if he's getting older or he can't find a suitable and virtuous young besula, then of course he should not forego the mitzvah of perivibia, of procreation. Take whatever he can, because then he has to fully trust and believe that this is what Hashem sent him. These are the words, these are the wonders of the perfect knowledge of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the Das Hashem. Hashem lo yimna tov l'holchem b'samim. And as the Pele Yoeitz often concludes, Hashem withholds no goodness for those who walk in wholesomeness.